Well, when Congress gets back to work from holiday break, their plate will be full. Their first government funding deadline is January 19th. And who in Chicago, with our escalating number of migrants, could forget that there was no border deal before they left? Joining me now is veteran award-winning journalist and political analyst Madeleine E. Hejerica. Good morning.
Good morning, Anita. How are you today?
Doing well. Lots to talk to you about. Some have described the work that needs to be done on a border deal as the most significant in 20 years. In talks, funding has been tied to wars in Ukraine and Israel that have controversies of their own. So let's start with whether you even think Congress will be able to unravel this tangled web for a bipartisan decision.
Well, there is shifting ground in the debate over immigration as the Biden administration has increasingly endured criticism over its handling of border and immigration issues, not just from Republicans, but from members of the president's own party as well, as Democratic cities and states struggle under the financial toll that the historic numbers of people arriving at the U.S. border with Mexico and being bused and flown to sanctuary cities like Chicago has taken on municipal resources. The negotiations are essentially to rewrite complex immigration law that has not been touched since 1996. This is a huge challenge, and the negotiations have gone on for months, intensifying over the holidays as the Biden administration increasingly tried to seek an agreement because this is a political liability for him. And they went ahead and recessed without the agreement. And as you know, they're going to come back and try again.
Yeah, absolutely. At last check, you mentioned, our city being a sanctuary city. Chicago has received over 26,500 new arrivals since 2022. The mayor has repeatedly said our city needs more help from the federal government. We're seeing the suburbs starting to grapple with this, too. Talk about the trickle-down effect of this issue.
Across the country, cities and states are struggling to manage this issue. Here in Chicago, the budget has been gutted by the amounts that have to be spent on this issue, on sheltering the new arrivals. But cities have consistently risen to the occasion. But this affects everything. It affects what cities are able to spend on their own challenges, existing challenges. Of course, here in Chicago, we've seen communities complain that their needs are not being met because so much of the funding is going towards migrant issue and the migrant issue and migrant support. So these things happen, and you got to remember that when money is diverted to one thing, that's money that is not able to be spent on another.
Yeah, and another thing that you mentioned was, of course, support shifting even within the Democratic Party. Congress has to look at border security, asylum protocols, and so much more under this one umbrella in an election year. How do you think this impacts the outcome of what we see next November?
I think that, you've got a presidential election looming. In January, even as Congress returns, you have the Iowa caucuses kicking off, the New Hampshire primary, and you've got Congress having to deal with this complex immigration law. I don't know if they are going to be able to tackle both the government funding issue to avoid a shutdown, plus achieve this elusive border deal. But they have to try. And certainly Biden has to try. He's facing pressure from all sides. And this is absolutely a political liability for him. He must deal with this issue and reach an agreement with his party as well as the Republican Party. It has to be a bipartisan agreement because this is a weakness that the former President Donald Trump has been attacking him on.
Absolutely. Madeleine E. Hejerica, hopefully we'll have you back because clearly we're going to have more to talk about on this issue and more. We appreciate you as always.
Thank you, Anita.
Take care.